All right. 1, 2, 3. I can count. We don't necessarily need a quorum for the workshop. However, let us get started. Workshop. Okay, the public will be allowed to attend at a reduced capacity that complies with CDC guidelines on social distancing. Once the capacity has been reached, admission into the meeting space will be closed. Mask wearing is not optional. This was printed prior to my ability to get in touch with the superintendent, looking at the news and the notifications. I mean, Chicago is not allowing people to fly in from Louisiana. Livingston Parish government closed its doors. It's not an unreasonable request to just try to go ahead and get your mask on. So please, board members are spaced out. I'm going to keep my mask on. Previously, in the past, I have often taken my mask off once I've gotten to my seat because I know they have us distanced. I am, as a matter of showing leadership, because as a leader, I realize I have to show folks that this, at least in my mind, is serious. I am vaccinated. I am distanced from my colleagues, to my knowledge, and I can't speak for my colleagues, and I shouldn't, but they are all vaccinated, okay? They might not feel as strongly as I feel about the mask wearing, being vaccinated, but in my capacity, presiding over this meeting, I can't with good conscience watch the rates go up and not just simply ask for masks, okay? The superintendent, in his own accord regarding what goes on with the school system, is working closely with healthcare professionals. And we'll be making announcements soon with those professionals on what should happen at the school sites. But while I'm presiding over the meeting, in my good conscience, I got to ask y'all to wear masks. Any hate mail can be directed to me and leave the rest of the people alone. Okay, the board workshop is scheduled for July 22nd at 5:00 p.m. Will be streamed live via YouTube. A link to watch the meeting can be found on board docs located on the school board's website. A period for written public comment will be provided before the meeting, as well as before each action is taken by the board on an action item. Individuals wishing to make a public comment about any of the posted action items will need to click on the agenda item in board docs and submit via the highlighted public comment hyperlink on the agenda item details. Online comments are available for public review. And I now call the roll, Madam Secretary. Oh, I'm sorry. Prayer and pledge. I feel like I'm skipped something. Board Member Lannis, and pledged by Evelyn Ware Jackson. Well, pledged by Mr. Gode. All right, thank you. Now, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
District 9, President Tapman. District 4, Vice President Collins.
Present.
District 1, Mr. Blue.
Here.
District 2, Mr. Lannis.
Present.
District 3, Mr. Howard. District 5, Ms. Ware Jackson. Here. District 6, Ms. Dyson. Present. District 7, Mr. Gode.
Here.
District 8, Ms. Bernard.
Present.
I call the meeting to order. Okay. Yes, sir. You have? Yes. Okay, so for our workshop, if we can have Mr. Chester and Ms. Anderson come and give us a presentation.
Good evening, Vice President Collins, Superintendent, Board meetings. Today, I present to you an overview of the facilities plan, or facilities study, excuse me.
I'm sorry, one moment. If anyone needs a mask, we do have masks in the front. I just respectfully ask that you respect what we have decided, or what I have decided as presiding over this meeting. If anyone needs a mask, and I appreciate only having to ask nicely without pointing anybody out, please respect other people's need for safety. This is killing children. I am concerned about my grandson, okay? And others should be too. Thank you. You can proceed, thank you.
Again, good afternoon, and today I'll present to you an overview of our facilities study. So where we are, we have put together a facilities action plan, which is that first step in just figuring out and establishing the process to develop a master plan. So what has happened to date is putting together that action plan, which is basically a roadmap to developing a master plan. And so to date, again, we've outlined what that process will be, and then we have created or put together a baseline of facts regarding facilities, their capacity, use. Today we'll present kind of an overview of where all of that is, and then from there, go into the development of that master plan. So it is pretty much a year-long process. It is planned for board members to have community meetings to get input and explain the process and provide help in understanding what that end result will be. Again, we've gone through the data collection and analysis, and with that, we are figuring out or establishing the vision of student achievement and how that relates to our facility use, and then community collaboration. So what happens after this is a committee will be established by the superintendent and leadership that will help see us through the process, which is basically a year long of planning. And the result is to implement a master plan beginning July of 2022. And I forgot to click the slide, sorry. How are our facilities being used? To date, we have 72 active school sites. 6 sites being utilized by charters, 7 administrative sites, 12 unused buildings, 9 vacant properties, 8 properties with land agreements. Throughout the presentation, we'll go into further detail of all of these categories, but this is just a brief overview of where those facilities are. What's the history of our tax plan? So far we have a host of new schools and renovated schools. And we've broken them up in 2 categories, again, of new schools. Major renovations, where those are existing schools where we have gone in and touched at least probably 90% of that facility and upgraded it and brought it up to code. And so we consider those as major renovations. But then there are also a long list of schools that have gotten facility improvements, whether it be classroom renovations or additions of classroom buildings. One thing to note is that our tax plan has touched every active school site, but the list that's here, I keep forgetting to advance the slides, I'm sorry. But those listed here are those that have received major work and are the major projects of the tax plan. Where we are now. We're in phase 4. To date, we have completed Glen Oaks Senior High School, which was the first project in phase 4. In construction, we have McKinley Elementary, Belfair Montessori Magnet School, La Belle Aire, Crestworth, and Crestworth. Those are all in construction. Crestworth will be opening for this school year, 2021, 21-22. And then in programming, we have Forest Heights Academy of Excellence and Broadmoor Middle School. So both of those are in discussions as determining how they will be used. And after programming, we will go into design for those projects. The rest listed, we have noted as coming soon. So as their year comes up in the tax plan, planning for those projects will commence. And again, that's just to give you a history of where we were and where we are to date. How are our facilities faring? What we've done is a high-level assessment of school sites. This was done in 2015. Since then, we have gone and done our best to update those facility assessments and try to categorize them into good, fair, and poor. Keep in mind, these are somewhat subjective definitions. However, based on the walkthroughs and visual assessments, this is the best way we saw to categorize these facilities. So something that is categorized in good, it's the overall structure, aesthetics, and building systems are in good shape. They have very low, if any, deferred maintenance, and overall, everything is performing well. A building in fair condition, the structure and spaces are all still very functional and have a usable life, but there is some deferred maintenance and just attention that needs to be had to keep these facilities up and going and in the fair category. And then we have those that fall into the poor category, where it's a list of high deferred maintenance. These schools really need to be reviewed for how we use them in the future, whether or not they are replaced or receive a major renovation. What we've done is, within the report, each school has an assessment. Within that assessment, we've done our best to estimate what the deferred maintenance would be for each school site. Here we have listed $115 million, where that's a total of addressing all active school sites. But within the report, there is an estimate for each individual school of what we think the deferred maintenance would be. And again, these are high-level assessments. Further review in detail as far as the architecture, structural, electrical and mechanical systems will still be needed to looked at in depth, but based on a visual assessment, we feel that these are categorized correctly. These are a list of those schools in each condition. In the good condition category, Baton Rouge Magnet High School, Broadmoor Elementary, Capitol Elementary, Capitol Middle School, Claiborne Elementary, the C-Tech facility, EBR Readiness at Brookstown, Glen Oaks High, Estruma High and Middle, Jefferson Terrace, Liberty, McKinley Middle, Park Elementary, Progress, the Dufrock School, University Terrace right now at Polk, so really the Polk facility, Winborn Elementary, Woodlawn Elementary, Middle, and High. Those schools in fair condition, Arlington Prep now at Old Howe Park, Audubon Elementary, Baton Rouge Flame, Bel Air, Belfair Montessori, Bernard Terrace, Cedar Crest Southmore, Crestworth Elementary at the old Crestworth Middle site, the Delmont Pre-K Center, Forest Heights Academy of Excellence, Glen Oaks Park Elementary, Greenbrier, La Belle Aire, LaSalle, Magnolia, Woods Elementary, McKinley High, Melrose Elementary, Marydale Elementary, Northeast Elementary and High, Park Forest Elementary and Middle, Parkview Elementary, River Oaks, Ryan, Stotlandville Magnet High and Middle, Sharon Hills, Shenandoah, Sherwood, Southeast, Tara, Twin Oaks, Villa Del Rey, Wedgewood, and Westdale. And those in that poor condition would be Baton Rouge Center for Visual and Performing Arts, Broadmoor Senior High School, Brownfields Elementary, Buchanan, EBR Readiness at Greenville, EBR Readiness Middle at the old, EBR Readiness at the old Greenville, and the middle at Beechwood, Glasgow Middle, Highland Elementary, Mayfair Lab, Northdale Superintendent's Academy, Sherwood Middle, South Downs Pre-K, Westdale Heights, Westminster, White Hills, and Wildwood. As previously mentioned, there are 6 schools that are using some of our schools, and those are the Type 5 recovery schools, which are Glen Oaks Middle School, Lanier, Democracy Prep, Friendship Capitol High, Dalton Elementary, and Kenilworth. And here is just a map that shows the areas that those schools are located. Looking at our ancillary spaces and properties. So we have administrative and inactive sites. Our administrative sites, Central Office and the IRC, Krista McAuliffe, Goodwood Center, Professional Development Center, Sharp Station, Transportation, and Wilma Montgomery Center. All of those are administrative sites or will be the only administrative sites. The district, as you're aware, is in the midst of consolidating some of their administrative sites. Thank you. Combining some of their administrative sites. And so as those relocations happen, the Kiel Center, Rosenwall, South Boulevard, North Highland Quad Building will all become inactive sites at the end of those relocations. So just a complete list of our inactive sites, we'll have Arlington Elementary, Banks Elementary, Broadmoor Middle, Choctaw Admin, Eden Park, Glen Oaks Middle School, Jefferson Terrace, the Kiel Center, Nicholson, which was the old Children's Charter, the North Highlands Quad Building, Rosenwall, and South Boulevard site. And so some things to note on these inactive sites. Right now in Phase 4, it's been identified, those that are starred, which is Arlington Elementary, Banks Elementary, Eden Park, and Rosenwall. Those are noted for demolition. Coming January 2022, it is planned for an early, Glen Oaks Middle School is planned for an early childhood development center. So there are plans in action of how we're going to start using those inactive sites, and those remaining as a part of this master plan will begin the conversations of what needs to happen to those facilities. Vacant land and unused land. So I think the first probably obvious question that always pops in your mind when we're talking about land is possible expansion and revenue opportunities. Make sure I don't have a graphic here. I'm gonna flip back. I don't know how well that graphic is reading, but here's a map, that just kind of shows the location of the vacant land and unused land with agreements. And so what we have is a large percentage of vacant land in the northern region of Baton Rouge. So there's land at the Alson Center, Gus Young, Highland Road, the old Estruma Middle School site, the old Mohican Elementary site, Old North Highlands Elementary School, the old Northeast Elementary School site, and then Plank Road and Sunshine Road also has land. So all of these are just vacant and ready to be purposed. And we have unused land, but they have land agreements with those. So Banks Elementary on 72nd, that has a land agreement with BREC for use of the playground area with the community. Land in Baywood, which is a Section 16 property, which is shared ownership with other parishes. But that is usually used for hunting or leased out, I should say, for hunting. Pride, land in Pride, which is also section 16. And I'm gonna go back a slide, I'm sorry. Which the Pride land is also usually leased out for hunting. Jefferson Terrace and Claycut, that's land directly adjacent to Westdale Middle School, where the East Baton Rouge Fire Department has a substation. Old Cheneyville, there is land that is leased out there to the Pride Sheriff and Fire Department. Old Park Elementary has a lease with New Horizon Church. Westdale Elementary, land adjacent to them, there is a lease with McMain's Children's Development Center. And then the Wyandotte Center is leased out to the YWCA. And so again, this is just a list of all of those vacant and unused properties with agreements. And going back to that graphic, just kind of showing the areas where that land resides. Looking at our operational costs and just operations in general. So those are usually expenses related to utilities and maintenance of our facilities. What we've done is, initially we came up with an average yearly cost for elementary, middle, and high schools. Since then, we've kind of reassessed and reevaluated and realized it was better to look at it at a square foot basis to kind of give a truer account of operational cost. And so with the square foot cost, what we found is that new elementary schools tend to average $1.20 per square foot, and the older elementary schools are at $1.59 a square foot for operational cost. Our new middle schools are averaging out at $1.78 per square foot, and then our older middle schools are averaging at $1.19 a square foot. And when you look at high schools, they're averaging about 64 cents a square foot for new high schools, and then our older ones are at $2.74 a square foot. So we brought that up, like I say, it's not on the slide. We were looking at it as a yearly average, but these numbers are good, but the facilities are not apples to apples. So when you look at what's in the slide, where we have an elementary school for a new one that's at $100,000 average yearly, and then you look at old at $73,000. For the most part, our new elementary schools are older. So the systems that we're using are still very efficient. The design and layout of those spaces are still very functional. However, it's larger in volume and just larger in square footage. So in showing the average yearly cost, it's just a little skewed. And so that's why we went to the per square foot cost, just to better show what it would be. And showing how our newer schools are faring better than our older. As a part of this, we also looked at our HVAC systems. We worked with our HVAC service providers, where they went to each facility that they maintain and did an assessment of the HVAC systems at each school. So within the report, there's kind of a written summary of those systems and how they are faring. We've also looked at yearly cost when it comes to that, and we're around $3.4 million in just yearly costs to keep the maintenance going for our HVAC systems. One thing we noted in here that's always a big topic of discussion when it comes to HVAC are two-pipe systems, and a host of our schools do still use those two-pipe systems. Even though they are known to be, or at least known now to be antiquated, they aren't going anywhere just because of funds and what it takes to start replacing those systems. However, there are some measures that we can start looking at to help replace those. And so what we did was work with Thompson Engineering just to get an idea of what it would cost to start refurbishing and replacing those two-pipe systems. And this is just those mechanical numbers only, but we're looking at about $32 a square foot to begin replacing two-pipe systems. And so that would not include your architectural, having to change out ceilings that would be affected, walls and things of that nature. That's just the mechanical cost of the systems itself to really begin refurbing and changing those systems out.
Quick question before you go to the next slide.
Mm-hmm.
Could you give us a square foot cost numbers again for the elementary, middle, and highs with the new and old,
Yes.
please, so I can write them down?
Mhm. And I'll also update the slideshow
Okay,
and send
but
that out.
could you just call
Yes.
them out, please?
Ready. New elementaries, $1.20 per square foot. The old elementaries, $1.59 a square foot.
Okay,
New middle schools, $1.78 per square foot. The older middle schools, $1.19 a square foot. New high schools, 64 cents per square foot. And our older high schools, $2.74 a square foot.
thank you.
And just for clarity, though I had my screen on the board agenda versus the request to speak, out of respect for the chair presiding over the meeting, just wave me down. Thank you. You can proceed.
So looking at temporary buildings in our schools, what we've done is just gone to each school site and noted those facilities that are using temporary buildings. There are some that have temporary buildings that are not in use, and we've noted those as well. And so here you will see there are 114 temporary buildings at 29 campuses. 8 of those campuses are currently functioning over their capacity. What we also did was look at the cost to start replacing those temporary buildings so we can have a plan in place of how we start to address those. And we came up with, and this is a rough estimate, $270,000 is the cost of a single classroom building. I'm sorry, I think that's cost to add a modular building. I'm sorry, I'm getting my two bubbles mixed up. But a modular building is estimated to cost about $270,000. That's to purchase that building and install it. If we want to plan to start replacing those, typically we base it on a per classroom basis, and that would be about $350,000, which would equate to $1.5 million for a 4-classroom quad building. And going to our school capacities. Student to teacher ratios and functional capacity. Functional capacity. It's the number of students that can be reasonably accommodated by a building based on its physical spaces, the operations, and programmatic requirements. What we have listed here is how the equations to come up with those functional capacities. We work with the district to establish those percentages where for traditional programmatic setting at an elementary, they typically function at around 90% of their capacity of a building. That's an older elementary. For a newer elementary, where layouts have tended to change a little bit more and been more conducive to how they're utilizing the schools, it ups it to about 95% of its max capacity. When you look at the secondary schools, middle and high, it goes to 80% for those traditional programs. When you look at a magnet for elementary, it goes to about 85% of its max capacity, and in the secondary schools, the middle and high, 75%. And in those schools that have gifted and talented, for elementary, it pretty much stays at 85%, but drops when you get to secondary schools to 70%. And so just for note, what we have here, for a traditional setting, we note the teacher-student ratios for traditional programs, gifted and talented, the ESS, and Montessori and pre-kindergarten. So one thing to note that's here is that max capacity is the number of classrooms times the student ratio. Functional capacity is the max capacity times the program percent, and occupancy is the enrollment divided by the functional capacity. And what we've done, and I also have a graphic here. I'll stay here for a minute. I know it's still hard to read, but I'm hoping at least the colors read a little better than the screen. But here's a graphic that's kind of broken up into the regions.
Before,
Thank you, I'm sorry.
before we move on, I just had a quick question. So a few schools have traditional, magnet, and gifted and talented. And so how do you do that?
Well, I think, so that's kind of what we get into. It's a breakdown, and I'll walk you through that in this
Okay.
next chart.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
So I just wanted to reference this. Like I say, I know you cannot read it, but hopefully the colors resonate and can be seen from there. That's just breaking down the schools and the regions that they're in. And so with that, I'll go back so we can talk about the chart. So what we did, the next series of slides, it breaks it down into those regions, looking at Scotlandville, the Northeast region, Broadmoor, Sherwood area, the Mid-City region, Highlands, Old South, Baton Rouge, and Southeast region. And on each slide, we'll take Scotlandville since it's the first one as an example. But what it does is, at least it's going by school, and it shows the enrollment. And the data that was used was the 2019-2020 enrollment data. And what we're showing is the enrollment for each of those schools that year, the max capacity that each school could hold, its functional capacity, and that's again going back to the 95%, 80s and 85s, and the occupancy rate when it was in 2019-2020. And it'll show those schools that were under capacity as well as those that were over. And so we've done that for each region. And where you may see a star by a school, that means it is growing grade levels. So for instance, Jefferson Terrace started at 6th grade, and each year it will grow into the 6th through 8th. And let's see, I'll go ahead and just list those out. For the Scotlandville Northeast region, schools under capacity were Brownfields Elementary, Crestworth Elementary, Marydale, Progress, Sharon Hills, Claiborne, Delmont Pre-K, Northeast Elementary, Ryan, and White Hills. Middle schools, Scotlandville Middle, High, Glen Oaks, Northeast, and Scotlandville. For the Broadmoor, Sherwood region, schools that came in under capacity were Greenbrier, Park Forest Elementary, Park Forest Middle, and Bel Air High.
Hold up. How did the original draft have Park Forest Middle?
So that original draft is what we were discussing on our one-on-ones. That original draft, we were using 2021 enrollment data, and after reviewing everything with the district office, it was found that the 2019-2020 enrollment data was truer to what you would typically see prior to COVID.
They had more in 2021?
Let's see. We'll flip to the trends. All right.
I mean, whatever the current enrollment is the current enrollment.
So for Park Forest Elementary, if you go to page 24, it'll show those enrollment trends from 27 to 21
Of the new document or the current?
in the PowerPoint.
24.
Okay, I'm still trying to resolve how Park Forest Middle Park Forest Middle go from
Oh, Park Forest Middle, I'm sorry.
middle, yes. I was aware of,
So in 2021, they had 711, but in 2019 and 2020, it was 656. So that's how it ended up wavering, because we changed the years. And again, that was just based on review with the district, where the 2019, 2020 enrollments, they thought were the better numbers to go by.
I get that it's a pandemic year, blase, blase. However, some things don't require choosing different years. Like the latest enrollment is the latest enrollment. That's not the same as looking at what we expect on academic gains, and we know academics may falter during a pandemic. I'm not fussing at you because I understand that was not your judgment call. But I'm putting on the table that that's the most absurd because are the children gonna disappear? Ms. Dyson? Though from previous, I thought I had cleared it out.
No, this is new.
Thank you, ma'am.
So when we're talking about, if we're talking about Park Forest Middle, don't we have kids that are going to be, students that are going to be moving to Crestworth? Is it Crestworth that we're moving? The Scotlandville area middle school students to bring them back home?
I know it's the Scotlandville area that will
Yeah,
feed
the
into
Allison-
Crestworth.
the
I know we
Allison
had
neighborhood.
like 4 million or something in the tax plan to help create
Crestworth Elementary,
a
which is.
place for those kids that are going to Park Forest Middle to come back closer to home. And so won't that affect these numbers? I don't know how many students, someone here probably does though, how many students are going to be moving? Is it a couple of hundred students that are going to be taken out of the attendance zone for Park Forest Middle to go and fill this other one closer to home in the Scotlandville area? Does someone,
When will the Crestworth Middle facility be?
what?
It's opening this school year.
Okay,
So the elementary will move over
And they're
August
going to do a
11th.
grade level at a time, is that right?
So the elementary will move over in whole as is, and then the middle school, the concept is it will grow 1 grade a year for the 6th through 8th.
So
and
I
the
think
bottom
that's
line
going to
is the-
affect the
I'm sorry, 'cause I'm
numbers
interrupting
at
you. I
Park
apologize.
Forest Middle, right?
I can't answer that, but I will get with those that can shed some light on that.
Is that all, Board Member Johnson? Thank you, ma'am. Board Member, I'll cede to Board Member Godey for the moment.
Yes, thank you. I would just like to put out for my fellow board members that we do have a common data point at a point in time, and this is just an overview and a summary of everything. And so if we started going into each individual school and getting into each individual enrollment, that is going to be what the teams are going to do after they get this report, and we'll be working in detail to come up with what is the plan. This is just laying out where are we as of 2019, 2020. And we could go through every school and talk about the enrollment at every school, but I don't think that's the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to give us an overview, and the action plan that comes out of this is next. And so all of the details about grade changes and enrollment changes and this, that, and the other will be done in that forum and not in just a forum of where we're trying to get this first plan. So I would, because we could spend 3 days going through each individual school in here, and I don't think that's the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to give us a high-level overview, and then we can let the teams go in and get into the details of each individual school, and then that's where we get into that when they come back with the plan. So I just ask my fellow board members to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Godin, and I do appreciate that comment and agree with that comment. I just would like to point out there was an obvious, only reason why I went into the weeds a little bit on this particular piece, because I'm not interested in going in the weeds on much else and dragging the meeting out either. But it's an obvious, huge difference, and I'm trying to rectify that. And so as we continue to move forward.
Madam Vice President, I know you're passionate about wearing your mask, but could you please speak closer to the mic or something?
No
I am having
problem.
a
Can
very
you all hear
difficult
me
ti-
now?
I'm having a very difficult time
Can
understanding
you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. So all I was saying is that I agree, this is not the time to go deep into the weeds. However, it was important for me to raise up that I observed a huge discrepancy. Thank you. Board Member Howard. Okay, no problem. Thank you, ma'am.
All right. I don't remember where I left off. And then just in that Highland, Old South Baton Rouge region, schools that, based on the 2019-2020 enrollment, Buchanan Elementary would be under capacity. Wildwood Elementary and Liberty Magnet would be over. And so, to Mr. Goday's point, again, this is just that baseline to begin those conversations of how we plan and fall into that master plan. I have totally forgotten to update these slides. I'm so sorry. It's the Highland Old South Baton Rouge region. And in the Southeast region, schools under capacity would be Jefferson Terrace Academy, but again, that is one that is growing by grade each year, Wedgwood Elementary, and then schools over would be Cedar Crest Southmore, Parkview Elementary, Shenandoah Elementary, Woodlawn Middle School, and Woodlawn High School. The next series of slides is just noting the district's enrollment trends for the last 4 years. So it's just noting from 2017 to 2021 what those enrollments have been per school. And Ms. Dyson,
Board Member Ware Jackson, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Quick question about the overcapacity schools, where I see you may have a school that's at 108 or 112% occupancy rate. Where are these kids being educated at present? Do you have an idea if we're way over capacity, over 100%? How do we resolve that? Where are they now?
well, based on a lot of the school walkthroughs, you all are utilizing every square inch of a school for teaching space. So whether it's, it may not be a traditional classroom, it was an office that was converted, or it was a storage room that was converted into small groups. So, really every square inch of the schools are being used right now.
So when you have schools that are like, over 100 or even, well, let me back up and ask another question. What's the line that sends them over capacity? What percentage is it? Is it 80-something% where it's over capacity, considered over capacity?
We're basically using it at 100, so meaning if they're able to utilize to their full 90% for just a traditional setting, if it goes over 100, then we're saying it's over. And so that's just where we drew the line. And then,
So if it's a traditional school with no special programming, if it's around 90%, that's usually
that's pretty good.
comfortable.
Correct.
But then when you have the gifted and magnet programs, is it, what, 75%, something like that? It's more
Correct.
the
But it does,
norm?
it drops your operational, the operations of those spaces.
Mhm.
It drops that percentage.
Yeah, so that's the learning space. So I'm wondering, just to put it out there, like, when you're looking at hallways and cafeterias where you got lots of kids and you've got to start having multiple lunch times, and I'm wondering what the hallways look like when, you know, kids are changing classes and you're at 90%, and that's pretty jammed up, huh?
But again, for a traditional setting, the district has kind of assessed those schools, and they deem that at 90%, they really are functional, if it's a traditional setting. It probably kind of gets into the weeds, but again, you have those things like your lunch periods where you're scheduling those things out. But in the overall design of those schools, and we're looking at the widths of those corridors, all of that takes into account. It was designed based on a certain population. And so then just code-wise and design-wise, the widths and things of those corridors are all taken into consideration for proper circulation.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Board Member Gode.
Yes, just real quick, on your page with the enrollment, page 24, the enrollment trends, or I guess it's page 23 it starts.
It continues, as a series.
When you say the enrollment, what is included in the term enrollment? Is it MFP enrollment? Is it every kid that's at the school? Or what, how do you define enrollment?
It's every kid at the school, and this kind of goes into what
Okay.
you were asking earlier, Ms. Dyson. If you all go to the next slide, how are we using our spaces? Slide 25. It starts breaking down how those spaces are used, and this is based on classrooms, but we have the total number of classrooms at each school, what core classrooms are, and then those ancillary classrooms. And then it's breaking down what was ESS, what was used for gifted and talented, what was used for pre-K and Montessori, so on and so forth for each school. So we put this chart in here to kind of help give you an understanding of where those numbers are coming from and what programs are at each.
Thank you very much.
Board Member Baloo.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Just a quick comment regarding Ms. Ware-Jackson's question about the overcapacity and the over 100% capacity. It looks like the total capacity was calculated without the use of T buildings. So those that are currently using T buildings, those are probably the ones that are showing well over 100% right now, because those that's not factored in the available space.
That is a good
I think
note.
so.
Board Member Dyson.
So when the school buildings were built, they had this wide of halls, and they had this type of reception area when you walk in. They had this kind of media center, library, this kind of cafeteria. But as we have added on to schools, as we have T buildings at schools, the hallways don't grow, the cafeteria doesn't grow, the library doesn't grow. And so they start having to use teacher conference rooms as classrooms, and they have to start using teachers on carts where the teacher doesn't have a classroom, and they juggle their stuff around, and they move from somebody has off period this time, they go teach a class in there, which bumps the person that's trying to use their off time in there. Now they've got a classroom coming into there, plus this teacher on the cart is not got a classroom, and so you've got multiple carts, and you're using stages as classrooms, closets as classrooms. storage rooms as classrooms, and up to even 3 lunch shifts. And even with the 3 lunch shifts, that each shift, all of the shifts, the students in that particular shift can't sit down in the cafeteria. And you can't go to more than 3 because you're taking up you're moving into breakfast or dinner time. So, you know, it's a real issue when it's a real issue, and it's affecting education, it's affecting the student experience and the teacher experience at a school when you put that kind of load on them. So I just wanted to reiterate that.
All right.
Okay. And so those last series are basically for each school, how those spaces are being used based on the programs that are offered. Again, this is all how our spaces are being used. In conclusion, again, this is kind of that baseline of information to begin, how I see it, the conversation of how we need to plan for the future. So those next steps are forming a master plan committee so that we can begin having those conversations, community meetings, and creating a master plan. The timeline for that is a year-long process where we should be in a place to implement that starting July of 2022. Any questions?
No other questions? Oh, okay, I see you.
I would just like to thank you and CSRS and the entire staff that put together this report, because I remember when I first came on the board, I couldn't even get a list of what properties we owned or all of the things. So this is a very detailed review with a lot of good information. Took a lot of time to work, not only within CSRS, but also within the entire district staff. So for all of you, I'd like to thank you very much. It gives us a wonderful place to start looking at how we do address the problems that we have and start working forward. So I applaud the initiative and I applaud the results. And I look forward to working with you and the rest of my fellow board members on coming up with a full facility strategic plan to match our programmatic strategic plan. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And with that, I'd also just like to do some acknowledgements. Again, it was a lot of work. The district helped with a lot of the information and helping us to confirm, what was what. And so I do want to say thank you to the district for helping us, our HVAC service providers, Aramark. We also have a high school intern from Scotlandville. And so she's been shadowing all of us, and I did want to also recognize her. Again, Scotlandville has that engineering program, and a group of juniors are usually able to have summer internships with architectural and engineering firms. And so we had the privilege of having Kennedy Spike with Scotlandville help with this also. So she helped, do some data entry and things of that nature, and I just wanted to recognize her as being a part of this also. And thank you all.
Board Member Landis.
Ms. Anderson, how are you this afternoon? Or evening, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say I have the same sentiments as Board Member Gode. This is an excellent plan. I have to say that I also been trying to find things that I could just pull out of this thing and say, all right, this is not bad, or this is bad. But even one of the things, right, like when I looked at the inactive properties, I was trying to figure out, like, okay, where's this land at in District 2? So then I went to the HAZVAC assessment, and I went through, and I found it under Appendix D. So this is phenomenal. For the first time, we actually have something we can see, understand where we can map it out, and actually go and look at it. So I just wanted to thank you and your entire team, CSRS, Mr. Chester. Also, you all did a phenomenal job. Thank you.
And I think I did not I want to make sure I recognize the CSRS tillage team also, because I mean, the CSRS tillage team, they put in some hours with this. And so I want to make sure to recognize them and say thank you, because I couldn't have done it on my own. So thanks to the CSRS tillage team. And one thing I do want to make sure I note too, that this really will become a living document. We put all of this data in electronically, so there is a database that can be updated. It's really going to become a living document, and but again, it'll aid in that final master plan.
All right, and Board Member Ware Jackson?
Well, I too wanted to say thank you and let you know how much we appreciate getting this work done. But that really goes to Dr. Narcisse. I have to tell you, Dr. Narcisse, I appreciate you moving this so quickly forward. You know, you're pretty new, and a lot has happened since you've been here. And as you probably know, some of us we've asked for this for a long, long time. So I particularly appreciate you getting this to us after a long, long wait. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am, and the whole team.
I did actually have a couple of quick questions that I had jotted down before I got distracted with trying to understand why something was changed. The hunting land not currently under lease, of course, Sportsman's Paradise, I have no objection to that. But I'm wondering, like, how does that work? It's just open land, or is somebody allowing people on the land and charging a fee, or what is the
Ms.
situation
Chester would
with
probably
that?
better explain, but my general understanding is when hunting seasons come up, they put out an RFP, and you're able to basically bid to lease that land to hunt.
Okay.
And so it's not leased right now, but during active hunting seasons, you would put it out there, receive bids, and whoever has the highest bid gets to lease
Okay.
the land.
So perhaps a little more clearer language could be seasonally leased? Because otherwise, I'm like, in the grand scheme of things, not a big deal, but
Nope, that makes sense.
With the HVAC equipment, I know as federal funds, because they changed the title, they changed the acronyms frequently, the federal funds, the federal COVID-related funds, and this is probably not necessarily a question for you, aren't we supposed to get some more funding from the federal government in addition to, don't we have some more coming down the pike? I don't mean this year's allotment and then next year's allotment. For this year's allotment, I thought I saw something, and I'm asking for clarity, about more money coming down the pike for this year.
That is correct. Vice
Okay, and so I'm just lifting up that need, since HVAC systems is something that they recommend, and we have that great need, I'm just lifting that up. Thing, and one small thing, but very important, because it has caused confusion in the past with other things. And I'm not picking on this project, this on the inactive sites. With the Glen Oaks Middle School site, we speaking in language as if it's been voted on, and we haven't voted on it yet. And so if we could just say proposed, and I'm not saying that to say I'm in opposition to it at all. I'm just saying so that we as board members won't remember things as if we've done it, because that has happened, and I've had to check the record on 1 or 2 votes and be, we got to make sure we get that. So for clarity, if we could just put proposed. And that's it for me. And Board Member Dyson, you had something else?
Yes, thank you. So on the Section 16 property, we're not able, that was land that the federal government gave to our school district.
Correct.
And so we're not able to sell it, but we are able to lease and those kinds of things on it.
Correct. And one thing to note is most of that is shared. So it may be shared with East or West Feliciana.
another
But
parish.
they're typically shared with other parishes.
Uh-huh. And so it just depends on who decides to build on that land or not? How does that work?
I'll have to do some more research.
That would be interesting to know. I'd like to know that. And also, the land up by Northeast, I believe we have not just the hunting lease that is happening seasonally, but we also have a timber plan that we do. And so I think it'd be good for us to try to figure out, like, on any land that we're leasing or have those kinds of management programs on, that we're receiving funding, any of our sites that we're leasing, I'd like to know kind of like how much we're receiving to lease these, so that we can have a better idea on, should we stay in the real estate business, leasing, or do we need to make these people an offer to sell it to them? What, and I think it would really be advantageous for us to know what we're gaining from it, because I think it's very low dollars when we're leasing. So I'd like to kind of have those data points. And thank you so much for all of this work. Like my colleagues have said, we have been wanting this. We have been asking for this for many, many years. And we have waited, and we have asked again, and we have waited. And to see this finally coming to fruition and actually have a real plan, a starting point to then have further discussions on and really take some action steps is in the near future. Hopefully we can really right-size our district and put the dollars towards educating and put the dollars towards, the schools that have needs, academic needs, those kinds of things, facility needs. And so I'm really, really proud of this work that you have done for us. And thank you for all your time and everyone that's been involved. Thank you.
Seeing no further requests to speak, that is all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and before I adjourn, I just want to, again, without pointing directly to anyone, say that the mask is not optional. And for those that feel like they don't want to comply, it's very disrespectful, number one, to the people who find it important and want to protect themselves and their loved ones, as well as the children that are currently dying in hospitals today. And disrespectful to me, who have respectfully requested something very simple that is not burdensome. And with that, I adjourn. It should. Okay, Madam Secretary, are we ready? I now call the regular meeting to order. The public will be allowed to attend at a reduced capacity that complies with CDC guidelines on social distancing. Once the capacity has been reached, admission into the meeting space will be closed. Mask wearing is not optional. All audience members are encouraged to adhere to the CDC guidelines on social distancing. We do have masks available at the front. The regular meeting scheduled for July 22nd, immediately following the board workshop, will be streamed live via YouTube. A link to watch the meeting can be found on board docs located on the school board's website. A period for written comment will be provided before the meeting as well as before each action is taken by the board on an action item. Individuals wishing to make public comment about any of the posted action items will need to click on the agenda item in board docs and submit via the highlighted public comment hyperlink on the agenda item details. Online comments are available for public review. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
District 9, President Tatman. District 4, Vice President Collins.
Present.
District 1, Mr. Blue.
Here.
District 2, Mr. Lannis.
Present.
District 3, Mr. Howard.
Present.
District 5, Ms. Ware Jackson.
Present.
District 6, Ms. Dyson.
Present.
District 7, Mr. Gode.
Here.
District 8, Ms. Bernard.
Present.
The meeting is now called to order. Approval of the school board minutes of the June 17th regular board meeting on the July 1st, 2021 Committee of the Whole meeting as published in the official journal. And I don't usually preside over the regular board meeting, but I do need to ask for a motion, right? Can I get a motion? Board, for approval of minutes? Okay. Board Member Lannis, and can I get a second? Board Member Gode. Madam Secretary, please call the vote. Oh, I need to go to the.
You need public
What I need to do, I'm sorry.
request comments.
Oh, thank you. Again, this is a little different from Kyle meetings, I apologize. Any comment from, none from the board? Any public comment? Seeing none? Back to the board. Seeing no further requests to speak. Madam Secretary, please call the vote.
Please vote. Madam Vice President, we're going to need to do a roll call.
All
Some are having
right.
trouble. District 1, Mr. Blue.
Yes.
District 2, Mr. Lannis.
Yay.
District 3, Mr. Howard.
Yes.
District 4, Vice President Collins.
Yay.
District 5, Ms. Ware Jackson.
Yes.
District 6, Ms. Dyson.
Yes.
District 7, Mr. Gode.
Yes.
District 8, Ms. Bernard.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving forward with item D1, Professional Educators Leadership Academy. Recognition of the completion of the Professional Educators Leadership Academy.
Thank you, Ms. Donaldson from Human Resource will present.
Good evening, Madam Vice President, in Mr. Tatman, our President's absence, Dr. Cito Narcisse, and board members. It is my honor and privilege to present to you the educators and leaders in our district that participated in our inaugural Professional Educators Leadership Academy. We're really excited about this program. We started this with just kind of a quick phone call to Mr. Julio Malara, who is the CEO and president of lots of publications in Baton Rouge, 225 Magazine, the Baton Rouge Business Report, and we were just really excited that he was open to this idea to create this academy that was based upon some of the great work that he has done with business leaders in our community. And so I'm going to allow Mr. Millara to just tell you a little bit about this program, and then we will bring these amazing leaders before you. I will tell you one of the great things about the program for us was the fact that we were able to bring leaders from all different divisions and departments and across the district. So from transportation, from the schools, principals, assistant principals, deans of students. We just had a cross-section of phenomenal educators who serve our students in so many different capacities and bring them together to discuss how they will lead this district into the future. And so with no further delay, let me allow Mr. Millara to greet you and speak with you today.
Good evening, board members. It's a pleasure and honor to be here this evening. And I got to tell you, for the last 5 years, we have been training leaders throughout our community. And so several administrative people from the school system have come to our program. And so when I got the call about possibly putting a program together, we decided to produce a pilot program and said, hey, let's give it the best shot here and see, because we now have over 300 alumni throughout our community that have gone through the program, and the surveys and the feedback that we've gotten back have been, in some cases, life-altering. And just to give you a quick little snapshot, and I know we all know that a country, a community, a school system, a school, an organization is only as good as its leadership, right? Everything rises and falls on leaders, and so one of our goals has been to help raise leaders in our community, regardless of the industry, and certainly with principals and people that work in our school system. They impact the next generation. And so it was our honor, been blown away by the hunger, how hungry every one of these principals and administrative, every one of these participants, how they leaned in. I will tell you, we covered topics like conflict resolution, leading and managing multi-generational workforce, right? You're not just dealing with baby boomers anymore, Gen X's, but you got Gen Y's and Gen Z's, millennials. We did the big Hogan assessment. Some of you may be familiar with Briggs-Meyer and even DISC, but this is kind of the upper echelon where they got a one-on-one personal coaching session with them to really dial into some of their strengths and weaknesses, and it's a real profitable, very painful process for each and one of them. But the thing that really struck a chord in me, that got me excited about the future of our community, is how hungry they were to learn. These are educators, these are people in the system, and it was just amazing, their enthusiasm and their passion to grow and learn, and the interaction. We had a lot of case studies and peer action, and so I don't want to take up too much time except tell you that it was refreshing. I think that we're headed in the right direction. I also want to acknowledge my colleagues here, Dr. Christelle Slaughter, Mr. Bill Slaughter, who helped facilitate and lead the charge. But it was a pleasure and an honor, and we want to continue to see if we can help make a difference in our community. And with no further ado, to acknowledge the people that did the real work. Thank you, Daphne.
Dr. Joy Abernathy Dyer, Ms. Rochelle Anderson, Chadwick O'Quinn, Ms. Raquel Brown, Joe Cox, Dr. Stephanie Dixon, Susan Gaucher, Dr. Sahara Haney, Sabrina Honor, Ms. Dion McCurry, Mr. Greg Noel, Dallas Rogers, Kelly Savant, Mr. Robert Signator, Mr. James Smith, Ms. Danielle Staten, Ms. LaShawn Stewart, Ms. Shamika Tolliver, Mr. Robert Wells, Ms. Lantarius Williams, and Ms. Chiquita Wisham.
thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of our superintendent, our board president, our board vice president, and our entire board, thank you for the amazing work that you do. Thank you all for participating in this program. I have a bag of medals right here. I'm going to give them to Ms. Donaldson. But thank you so much. We appreciate each and every single one of you. Thank you.
Y'all want to do more two rows so I can get y'all in the picture? One, two, three. That's great. Congratulations. I'll take them. We'll get them out there.
Board Member Dias, well,
While anybody's still in here, I just wanted to thank all of the people who stepped up to participate in this program. This is something that our district has needed for quite some time. And I am just so proud that we are growing our leadership capacity. And I'm looking forward to seeing this pilot keep on going and keep on working. I am proud that we have finally have a system in place where we're thinking bolder, we're thinking more innovatively, we're trying to build, and we understand the importance of building our capacity, and capacity for leadership is absolutely paramount. So thank y'all all so much for partnering and with us. It was so needed and so valuable, so thank you so much. I'd like to participate at some point. Thank you.
thank you, Board Member Dias, and I too just want to say thank you. I think it is an amazing partnership and an amazing addition to the professional development that has been going on in the district, and the new superintendent is adding to the pot. This is an amazing partnership, and we thank you so much. And Superintendent Narcisse.
Yes, I also do want to also congratulate this program, very successful from what I've seen coming in and learning. I think the one thing I do want to highlight that I thought was the most unique thing of the program was the combination of people at the school level and central office being able to build capacity going through. And so as Julio may tell you, I already made a meeting with him to have a conversation about what this will look like going into a cohort 2 moving forward. But I think it's a great way to provide opportunity and also have our folks learn different sets of skills, which I looked through the curriculum, I think will be very helpful as we continue to build a high-performing school district that'll be able to support our students. So look forward to that, and wanted to also congratulate all of the folks who participated.
Thank you so much. And moving forward with the 2021 Energy Star Partner of the Year.
Superintendent Narcisse, Vice President Collins, and members of the board. I'm Don Savoy, the Director of the Energy Management Program with the district. This past April, the United States Environmental Protection Agency announced the selection of East Baton Rouge Parish School System as a 2021 Energy Star Partner of the Year. This is the highest recognition in the Energy Star program, and it's awarded for superior energy efficiency achievements. We're the first and only Louisiana school district to win this award, and we were one of only 6 school districts in the entire country who were recognized this year for the first time. This is a significant milestone because it validates our leadership in energy management, not only among the school districts in Louisiana, but also across the country as well. As a couple of sentences in the Partner of the Year award, your notification states, it says, EPA congratulates East Baton Rouge Parish School System on winning Energy Star 2021 Partner of the Year award. Thank you for delivering new standards of excellence and leading the way in energy management and protecting our climate. This is a major recognition that's added to an already impressive list of awards that the program has achieved. If you remember last year, the district won the Association of Energy Engineers Region 4 Energy Management Award, and that's where we were the only school district selected in a 13-state region. We also have 4 U.S. Department of Education Green Ribbon School Award winners, and we're working on more. A past winner of the EPA Energy Star National Building Competition, that was Claiborne a few years ago, and numerous Energy Star building certifications. Now, under normal circumstances, this award would be presented at an official award ceremony by the head of EPA in Washington, D.C. But due to COVID, that didn't take place. Although I'm not a substitute for the head of EPA, nonetheless, I do have the award. So it's truly an honor to present the EPA, your 2021 Energy Star Partner of the Year Award to East Baton Rouge Parish School System. Superintendent, would you care to accept the award, please?
Thank you so much. And now moving forward with item E1, monthly financial report for information only.
Yes, will be done by Ms. Kelly Lopez.
There's no presentation, it's just for
Oh,
information.
I'm sorry, no
No
presentation.
presentation, no problem. Also, personnel changes, moving forward to that. No, again, no presentation. And now moving forward with item F1, update from the superintendent.
Thank you, Vice President Collins. I was very excited that as we are about 20 days away from school, should be a lot of excitement in the air. First, let me just announce that we will be returning back to central office in October. I know we had an earlier date for that, but after talking through, we will be moving back through October, so just wanted for everyone to be aware of that. Also wanted to just share, I know I've been getting a lot of calls about the protocols for COVID and those things. We will be making an announcement on that in the first week of August before we get back to school. We've been working with our Health Advisory Committee, which includes physicians, the Department of Health, and so we will be sharing with the public what the protocols for the school year will be. As of right now, as people are aware, we are just monitoring the situation and also telling folks to please get vaccinated. The Delta variant, which is currently out now, 98% or just above 90% of those who are actually sick are actually in the ICUs are folks who are not vaccinated. And so we just tell folks to please make sure that you stay in touch with your physicians and continue to connect with your health. So I wanted to just let the public know that, but we will be sharing what the school year will be like by the first week of August before school goes back. School Leadership Institute. This week we hosted our first ever School Leadership Institute for our school leadership teams. This is the first time the district that we were able to bring over 300 school leaders together for a full week of professional development. Leaders have been able to collaborate together and hear from some national speakers. We had former Secretary of Education, Arnie Duncan, that spoke to all of our leaders here, as well as we had the Superintendent Alberto Carvalho, who is the Miami-Dade Public Schools superintendent, who talked a lot about the work that they have done there, and it's made some comparisons on how we as a school district can continue to be impactful as a city district for our families and children in the city of Baton Rouge. Central Office Retreat. Last week we held our first all-hands Central Office Retreat, where we had over 350 of our administrative employees. We were able to share the mission, the vision, and the goals for the next school year, focusing on the consistency, clarity, coherence, and the communication on providing support to our schools, our families, and our communities. There was a commitment by everyone to want to make this a really great year, especially coming from a very challenging year that we had. So we talked a lot about many great things and wanted to recognize the work that our HR department, the various department heads and chiefs working with our staff to be able to do that. Other big announcements for us is as we get closer to school year, we have Stuff the Bus. It's a reminder to please join us on July 28th for the annual Stuff the Bus event. We're excited to collect school supplies for our students and to partner again with WBRZ for this community-wide event. The location will be on College Drive, is at the Walmart. And so just wanted to know, everyone in the community to know it's important for you to support the work of our young people. So please come by as we begin to gear up for that. I'm also excited to announce that we will have our Back to School Bash. It's a reminder that we'll be hosting a citywide Back to School Bash on August 7th at the Raising Cane River Center. Thank you to our presenting sponsors, ExxonMobil, Mayor President Sharon Weston Broom, Mayor Pro Temp Lamar Cole, and other community partners for stepping up and supporting our children and families. We wanted to make this a huge event where children will get the opportunity to have things such as there'll be a kids zone, there'll be booths for community services, for people want stuff. We'll have also kids getting haircuts and other things to get them prepared for the school year. So we look forward to you all being there with our board members. Just wanted to also say thank you to our staff for the hard work that they've been doing over the summer to prepare for the school year. That includes both teachers and also leaders as we're starting to gear up to go to the school year. Sometimes people think of the summer where everybody's off, but they're really gearing up to be prepared for the school year. And so we're just excited about that. Also want to, again, just announce that we're having some new things such as bringing in sports and other things into the school system. We'll, for the first time, have elementary sports and also doing more literacy work in the school year. And so we're just excited to begin to gear up for that. Please feel free to make sure that you, if there's any questions or anything anyone has concerns about, please continue to contact us and go to our website, ebrschools.org. As many people know, we cannot do this work without your feedback. A part of our goal as we move this work forward is to improve our customer service so families feel more connected to the school system and continue to make sure that people feel proud of the work that we do as a parish moving this work together. And Madam Vice President, that is my report.
Thank you very much. Any reports from board appointees? Okay. Moving forward then with item H1, unfinished business. Broadmoor Middle School program and grade configuration. Consideration of a request for the approval of the recommendation to establish a 6th through 12th grade configuration and performing arts magnet program at Broadmoor Middle site. Can I get a motion?
Real quick.
Yes, sir.
I know Superintendent Narcisse has proposed what looks like an exciting school and will offer, be something that's in high demand, but I think we still need more time to study it, make sure we understand what we're getting into and allow for more input to make sure we do have a demand, and that's what our community wants to see. So the motion I'm going to make is that we move this item back to the October Committee of the Whole, unless there's a reason to move it to the board meeting. Not if anybody can, but I recommend we move it to the October Committee of the Whole, and that's the motion I'm making.
Oh, okay. I have a first from Board Member Ballou and a second from Ms. Bernard, Board Member Bernard. And Board Member Bernard requests to speak.
Mr. Ballou, would you entertain a friendly revision to your motion, just to give the superintendent more flexibility so that he's not bound by the October date? And that would allow him to place it on the agenda at his convenience when he feels he's ready.
Certainly. That makes sense. I'll agree to that.
Thanks. Okay. So the motion would then be to...
The motion is to postpone the item to a date uncertain or to be determined.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other questions or requests to speak from the board, excuse me. Moving to questions from the, public comment.
I've spoken to many Capitol High alumni, and I am wondering, since we are having a motion of putting this off, if we can also, at that time, whenever it's convenient, discuss why not join these two projects. Capitol High alumni want Capitol High in EBR's hands. They want it to be an EBR school. So why not use Capitol High in all of its glory for EBR and take this idea and spread it out in the more space and put it at Capitol High instead of Broadmoor's limited space?
Seeing no other public comment, back to the board. Seeing no additional requests to speak from the board. Madam Secretary, please call the vote.
Please vote. The motion carries.
Now moving forward to
Madam
item,
Vice President?
yes, sir.
Quick point of personal privilege. I'm sorry, I was
Okay.
asleep when you asked for comments from the committee, but I would like to make one brief announcement. The VIPS Summer Soiree, which is going to be Dancing Through the Decades, will be held Sunday, August 22nd. And it's going to be at the terrace of the River Center Branch Library from 4 to 6 p.m. And tickets will be on sale through the VIPS website. The tickets are $60, and they'll have live music, food, drinks, a silent auction, and a wine toss. So, and a dance performance by the Evolve Dance Studio. So any of you who would like to participate in that activity to support our VIPs who do a lot of good work, particularly in our literacy programs, I would encourage you to do that very much. And again, my apologies, Madam Vice President, for not being on my toes.
No problem. And you mind repeating the date and the time?
Sure. It is Sunday, August 22nd at the terrace of the River Center Branch Library from 4 to 6 p.m.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Now moving forward with the consent agenda. Board Member Bernard.
The following items are to be approved as part of the consent agenda and are considered to be routine and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of items unless the board member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered as an item on the regular agenda for a separate vote preceding the last item on the regular agenda. 2021 East Baton Rouge Parish School System Strategic Plan. Consideration of a request for the approval of the 2021 East Baton Rouge Parish School System Strategic Plan. Item 3, grants. Consideration of a request for approval of the following grants. A, Albertson's Nourishing Neighbors Grant in the amount of $25,000 to the Child Nutrition Department for the 2021 Summer Feeding Program. B, ADF grant in the amount of $10,000 to the Human Resources Department's Connect to Teach Pre-Educator Pathway Project during the 2021-2022 school year. Item 4, grants pre-K. Consideration of a request for the approval of the following 2021-2022 pre-K grants. A, Cecil J. Picard, Early Childhood LA4 in the amount of $5,679,200. Non-public schools. B, non-public schools early childhood development NSECD in the amount of $620,460. Birth to 3-year-old seats, B3, in the amount of $2,053,083. 5, memorandums of understanding, MOU, expansion of pre-K and pre-K 4 sites. Consideration of a request for the approval of memorandums of understanding, MOU, between the East Baton Rouge Parish School System, quote, lead agency, and child care centers, micro centers, charter schools, and non-public schools in the amount of $6,270,600 to expand pre-K 3 and pre-K 4 seats. Funding source, ESSER, birth to 3, and LA 4. 6, memorandums of understanding, MOU, dual enrollments. Consideration of request for the approval of memorandums of understanding between the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board and the following. A, Southern University, to provide dual enrollment courses for the 2021-2022 school year. Baton Rouge Community College, BRCC, to provide dual enrollment courses for the 2021-2022 school year. Louisiana State University, to provide dual enrollment courses for the 2021-2022 school year. Franciscan Ministries of Our Lady University, Fran U, to provide dual enrollment courses for the 2021-2022 school year. Southeastern Louisiana University, to provide dual enrollment courses for the 2021-2022 school year. Funding source, SCA. 7, approval of fiscal agent. Consideration of a request for the approval of the fiscal agent contract between the East Baton Rouge Parish School System and Capital One Bank for a period of 3 years beginning October 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2024, including all current provisions and rates. 8, Louisiana Compliance Questionnaire. Consideration of a request for the approval of the Louisiana Compliance Questionnaire as required for the 2020-2021 financial audit of the East Baton Rouge Parish School System. 9, agreements. Consideration of request for the approval of an agreement between the East Baton Rouge Parish School System and the following. A, Southeastern Louisiana University in the amount of $10,000 to provide credit for tuition fees for authorized students enrolled in Southeastern Louisiana University. B, Teach for America to provide up to 6 core members for 2 Innovation Network schools, Claiborne and Capital Elementary, not to exceed $41,200 annually. 10, professional services contracts. Consideration of request for the approval of the following professional services contracts between the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board and the following. A, Dreambox Learning Incorporated in the amount of $117,864 to provide mathematics and student licenses, professional development, and support. Funding source ESSER 3, Action 2. B, Achieve 3000 Incorporated in the amount of $1,391,090 to provide literacy and mathematics student licenses, professional development, and support. Funding source ESSER 3, Action 2. C, Jason Learning in the amount of $75,000 to provide STEM activities, professional development, and support. Funding source ESSER 3, Action 2. D, AVID Center in the amount of $27,395 to provide support and professional learning. Funding source school redesign. E, ZERN in the amount of $110,000 to provide professional development, support, and student activities for elementary grades mathematics. Funding source ESSER 2. F, Board of Supervisors of the Louisiana State University and Agricultural and Mechanical College on behalf of its LSU University Health Sciences Center, LASARD, in the amount of $50,000 to provide specialized supports for educators to meet the unique needs of students with disabilities. Funding source IDEA 611. G, Volunteers in Public Schools VIPS in the amount of $25,000 and $58,000 respectively for the Everybody Reads and Everyone Counts programs. Funding sources Title I and General Fund. H, Miravia LLC to provide literacy, mathematics, and content coaching support not to exceed $50,000. Funding source ESSER 3, Action 2. Proximity Learning in the amount of $526,000 to provide virtual instruction for students in grades 6 through 12. Funding source ESSER 3, Action 1. 11, Memorandums of Understanding. Consideration of request for the approval of the Memorandums of Understanding, MOU, between the East Baton Rouge Parish School System and the following. A, LSU Social Research and Evaluation Center, SREC, to assist with the statewide initiative to promote good attendance practices. B, Junior Achievement of Greater Baton Rouge and Acadiana to provide curriculum aligned with Louisiana state standards and provide a robust learning experience for students focused on work, readiness, financial literacy, and entrepreneurship. 12, Oversight Committee, consideration of a request for the approval of the semi-annual financial tax plan update and the revised 2020-2021 tax plan budget for Propositions 1, 2, and 3. 13, South Baton Rouge Charter Contract, consideration of request for the approval of a charter school contract between the East Baton Rouge Parish School System and South Louisiana Charter Foundation for the operation of South Baton Rouge Charter Academy. 14, KIPP New Orleans Charter Contract, consideration of request for the approval of a charter school contract between the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board and KIPP New Orleans Incorporated. 15, Facility Use Agreement, consideration of a request authorizing the superintendent and general counsel to negotiate a facility use agreement with an option for a long-term lease of the Capitol High facility with KIPP and to return to the board for final approval of the agreement and lease. 16, RFP Facilities Management Services, consideration of a request to authorize the superintendent of schools to develop and issue a request for proposals, RFP, for facility manages services and to provide for related matters. 17, RFP Energy Efficiency Services, consideration of a request to authorize the superintendent to engage in an independent third-party consultant to develop, issue, and evaluate request for proposals, RFP, for energy efficiency services and to provide for related matters. 18, Administrative Contract Template, consideration of a request for the approval of a template for a contract of employment for promotional appointment. 19, 2021-2022 Student Rights and Responsibilities Handbook and Discipline Policy, consideration of a request for approval of the Student Rights and Responsibilities Handbook and Discipline Policy for the 2021-2022 school year for the East Baton Rouge Parish School System with noted changes including allowance for navy blue bottoms. 20, Litigation, consideration of a request for the approval of the recommendation from Gwen Shamlin, General Counsel at EBR PSB in the following matters. A, Joseph Miles versus Terry G. Cummings, Berkeley Insurance Company and East Baton Rouge Parish School Board, docket number 688741, Section 25, 19th Judicial Court, Baton Rouge, Parish of East Baton Rouge, Baton Rouge, State of Louisiana, to provide for related matters. B, Ebony Coleman individually and on behalf of her minor child, name redacted, versus East Baton Rouge Parish School Board. And I so move.
Thank you. Are there any requests to pull any items? Board Member Dyson.
Yes, I wanted to pull item 2.
Is that all?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, okay. Board Member Lannis.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I wasn't going to pull an item, but I did want to make a comment on item 16. I know inside of the RFP, the minority participation is listed at 20%. However, right now, we're currently operating at 42%. My request is that we make an amendment to that, but also that we move it up to 50% minority participation.
Just to keep it clean, let's go ahead and pull it, and then you can motion at that time.
Okay, that's fine. That's cool.
16. All right, so Connie made a motion, and can I get a second on the consent agenda? Hold up, I knew it was a reason why I hadn't went yet. Item 5 and item 10. And then, that's it for me. Any other, seeing no other requests to pull an item? So altogether, that's 2, 5, 10, and 16. I hate to be confusing. Actually, let me leave item 5 in. And so then for clarity, 2, 10, and 16. And I apologize for that confusion on my part.
Madam Vice President, we also need a second on the motion, I believe.
Okay, so can I get a second on the consent agenda? Thank you. Madam Secretary, if you can call the vote.
You need- you-
Sorry, y'all. Seeing no board requests to speak, any public comment on the consent agenda? Minus those items. If you want to talk about item 2, item 16, or item 10, don't come up at this time. Okey dokey. Coming back to the board, seeing no board comment. Madam Secretary, call the vote.
Please vote. The motion carries.
Back to item I2, 2021 East Baton Rouge Parish School System Strategic Plan. Consideration of a request for the approval of the 2021 East Baton Rouge Parish School System Strategic Plan. Can I get a motion? Okay. Board Member Gode and Lannis. Are there any requests to speak by board members?
Yes.
Go ahead. Board Member Dyson.
I just wanted to pull this so that we can make sure that the viewing audience understands that we have gone through a strategic plan process with a lot of intensity and deliberation and thought put into it. We've been very involved as board members, and we've had a lot of external business and community input as well. And there's just been so much work put into this in such a short amount of time. I applaud our superintendent and staff and everyone who helped push this process along so quickly but deliberately. And I just wanted to give the superintendent an opportunity to discuss the plan for the general public so they understand the kind of commitments that we're making in it. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Dyson. Seeing no other requests to speak from board members, now moving to public comment, only on the strategic plan. Seeing no, oh, one person.
Good afternoon, or good evening. It's quite a jog from the other room. We're not sitting in our normal room. What up, y'all? My apologies, minor distraction. In our strategic plan, I noticed that we had quite a few blank areas that was not filled out. And I'm wondering if we're gonna have those completed so that the actual board can do a real true approval that reflects everything that's going to be in the strategic plan. Additionally, our strategic plan did not reflect anything that relates to our children with disabilities, English language learners, children that are nonverbal. We have a large population, and I know that one of the things on the consent was about LaSard. LaSard specializes in working with children with disabilities. They started out working with just children with autism, and they've learned to embrace all. And we just did a wonderful presentation today about how they work with children that are blind and deaf, and we actually have children like that in our school system. I think that it would be extremely wise of us to make sure that we include them because they are children in our school system too. Let's make sure that we have a strategic plan that embraces all kids. Not just some, all. I know I talk about Northeast Elementary all the time, but South Downs Pre-K and Kindergarten specializes in children with disabilities. That's where my child went first. It wasn't because we wanted to, it was because we didn't have an option. We didn't have an option of schools in our area that provide those services for our child with disabilities. So I ask that we include in the strategic plan something that embraces every single child in every single area for every single classroom, every single minute of the day. That's the new motto that we have, each and every child. Let my child and other children like him be represented in the strategic plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, back to the board. Seeing no board comment, Madam Secretary, please call a vote.
Please vote. The motion carries.
Moving forward to item 10, professional service contracts. Can I get a motion? Board Member Bernard and Board Member Lannis. Seeing no requests to speak from the board, any public comment? And while Ms. Corley is coming up, I'll take a moment.
Madam Vice President,
Yes,
I think you might need to read the item into the record before the motion and second.
Okay. I apologize. Okay, so I have to read,
Yes,
even though
ma'am.
it was read earlier? I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
I
what?
think you need to read it back in.
Okay,
as a
read it
separate
again
item.
since it
Yes,
was
ma'am.
pulled. Okay, I didn't realize I had to redo it. Okay, no problem. Professional services contract, consideration of a request for the approval of the following professional services contracts between the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board and the following. Dreambox Learning Incorporated in the amount of $117,864 to provide mathematics student licenses, professional development and support, funding source, ESSER 3, Action 2. B, Achieve 3,000 in the amount of $1,391,000 and $90 to provide literacy and mathematics student licenses, professional development and support, funding source, ESSER 3, Action 2. Jason Learning in the amount of $75,000 to provide STEM activities, professional development and support, funding source, ESSER 3, Action 2. Avid Center in the amount of $27,395 to provide support and professional learning, funding source, school redesign. Zern in the amount of $110,000 to provide professional development support and student activities for elementary grades, mathematics, funding source, ESSER 2. Board of Supervisors of Louisiana State University and Agricultural and Mechanical College on behalf of its Louisiana State University Health Sciences Center in the amount of $50,000 to provide specialized supports for educators to meet the unique needs of students with disabilities, funding source IDEA 611, volunteers in public schools in the amount of $25,000 and $58,000 respectively for the Everybody Reads and Everyone Counts programs. Funding sources, Title I and General Fund Myra via LLC to provide literacy, mathematics, and content coaching support not to exceed $50,000. Funding source, ESSER 3, Action 2. And proximity learning in the amount of $526,000 to provide virtual instruction for students in grades 6 through 12. Funding source, ESSER 3, Action 1. And we have a first and second from Board Member Bernard and Lannis. Huh? Oh. All right, and so then Board Member Howard, you had some comments.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. So first of all, I just want to thank the team for sending over the list of how we're going to evaluate contracts going forward. But I still don't necessarily know if we as a collective have solved for the intentions of what pathway we're going on with this money. So I know that we, have an increase of money coming in through ESSER, and we have an increase of money coming in through all of these different federal funding sources because of the pandemic. And we got an evaluation tool that tells us that we're going to evaluate the contracts in X, Y, and Z way. But I still don't know if me, as a board member, if I see a long-term strategy behind how we're actually spending the money. So I would like, if we could get like monthly reports, like let's say, for instance, like we are using a funding source to fund a particular, I don't know, a coach, a literacy coach, a math coach. if we have to use other funding sources to then solve or fund those issues, I would like to have a report back to the board that says, A, why we had to use another funding source, and why what we planned for is not how the money came back or was utilized for the district. So I appreciate the evaluation too, but I still would like to see more about our intentions on how we're actually spending this money, and if we fall short, how are we solving for those shortcomings? Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Howard. And I just want to say, I have similar concerns that I've already expressed in terms of, I'm not opposed to each and every item, but I do have concerns around recurring expenses in high numbers that has already been discussed in our board meetings, that we don't necessarily know how we're gonna, once the one-time money is gone, we don't know how we're gonna be able to afford the recurring expense. And so for that reason, I needed to pull this item. And Board Member Lannis?
Yes, thank you, Madam Vice President. And I just wanted to add to the discussion, while I'm not against professional service contracts, I do think that it is telling that we have so many and we are not offering those same services ourselves. But this is what I would ask or request, is that before we vote on professional service contracts in the future, can we see data that shows us how these services has worked in other districts similar to ours before we take on these services? Because it's one thing to reevaluate after they've already performed the services for us, but it's another thing to know whether or not these are actually good fits for our school district before we actually vote on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other board comment, going to public comment.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Madam Vice President, I totally agree with Mr. Landis and Mr. Howard's comments. Our school system far too long has had many districts, many schools that have fallen through the cracks, that have become unserved and underserved, such as Scotlandville Magnet High. Scotlandville Magnet High have 5 programs, but they have a large population of children with disabilities that don't get served. We need the data to actually show where these kids are, and it should be before they even make it to high school, so that we can know that these type of contracts is worth our money. Right now, we're talking about reopening Crestworth Middle. Where are those kids performing at right now? We talked about overpopulation at Shenandoah Elementary. How are those kids performing so that they can go to middle school? We need to know how much money, resource-wise, is being spent at those schools versus the ones in the other underperforming areas, so that we can see if it's a matter of programming or if it's a matter of money. We're talking about, we only had 1 contract out of all of those that were mentioned that is to serve children with disabilities. LSU provided a report that talked about how many people with disabilities fall through the cracks and do not receive education, which causes them to fall and not be able to be a part of the workforce. As an education system, it is our obligation and our legal duty to make sure each child has free, appropriate public education. So why only have 1 that use IDEA funding? Can we have more contracts that help our children with disabilities not fall through the crack? Because just like you, Corinth would like to have a seat at the table too. So I thank you, and I'm quite sure Corinth would like to thank y'all too, but he more focused on wanting this tablet.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Corley, if you could follow up with me with the LSU report, I'd appreciate it. Yes. Thank you.
Am I projecting enough? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. It's an interesting night when I agree with Board Member Howard, Board Member Lannis, and Vice President Collins all at the same time. So I don't really kind of know where to go from there. As an educator, there's a running joke that every time they bring in new programming, it'll be here 2 years and then we're gonna learn something else. So we don't have to really learn it that well because there's gonna be something else in 2 years. EBR never gives anything a chance to work. We don't stick with anything long enough to learn it. A third-year teacher is barely getting their head above water, so why would the third year of a program, would you have it mastered enough to truly know its excellence? But how many vacancies do we have right now? Teachers and children. You want children to learn? You want success? Put teachers with children. Pay us something that keeps us off of the welfare system, and possibly, and treat us a little bit better, and possibly we might have more teachers. I think from the last personnel changes, now, I'm not Daphne, I know she
If we
probably
can,
knows that number.
Ms. Matthews, if we can make sure that it's
Jermaine?
truly germane.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Jermaine. Programming. About 200 vacancies, programming, teachers, programming. It's programmed in us. That's a waste of money. We can do it. Give us the money, get more teachers, we can do it. That's a waste of money. Because y'all are just gonna have something else in 2 more years.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comment, back to the board. Board Member Bernard.
Procedurally, because I made the motion, I'm required to vote yes, and so I would like for someone else to be the maker of the motion. The second, I'm happy to be the second because I can do whatever I want as the second, but, so I apologize, but I would like to withdraw my motion. Somebody else wants to make the motion? Okay. And Mr. Lance is going to still second
So
it.
then first is Board Member Gode.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, Lord. And back to the board. Do we need to come back? Well, yes. Okay. On the new motion. So back to the board, seeing no board comment. Back to the public, seeing no public comment. Back to the board, seeing none. Madam Secretary, do you have it? All right, just let us, tell us, please vote when you get it. Okay, Board Member Howard.
No, just so I know the motion has changed, and so Ms. Bernard says she can't vote against her motion. And I too have concerns again about the professional services contract. But there is one item that does fall into here that gives me pause if we vote against the motion as a collective. The proximity learning thing is what we're going to be using to utilize our virtual schooling for the over 700 plus kids who have signed up for virtual schooling. So if you would accept a friendly amendment to consider that as an individual item, I would want to make that recommendation. If that's the way we're going as a board, I just wanted to, because I think that is important that we deal with that, because if we vote against that, then we're putting ourselves in a bind as it relates to the virtual instruction for the kids who haven't signed up for virtual school for this year. So.
And, yes?
I'll defer to our experts in procedure, but I believe there might need to be a motion to bifurcate this item since there are a number of items joined, if you're going to break one out. And so Mr. Howard might need to make a motion to bifurcate and remove item, is it F, I, from that grouping and consider it separately.
Well, I'll make the motion to bifurcate item I from this motion and consider it separately.
And he'll need a second for that.
I'll second that. As a substitute motion? Yeah.
There's a substitute motion, yes, sir. And Madam Vice President, yeah, and we'll need comments, board and audience comments.
Okay. Board Member Ware Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. If we're looking at all of these and individually, or as Mr. Howard mentioned something about proximity learning, I have a real concern for volunteers in public schools, and everybody reads and everybody counts. If there's some concern about this whole package, and, you know, we don't want to dance around with, you know, in areas that, that we shouldn't. But I do have a concern. You know, I don't know the rest of these guys, so to speak, but I do know VIPs.
Okay. Ms. Bernard, excuse me, Board Member Howard and Bernard, would you accept a friendly to include VIPs as well?
Yeah, I'm fine with including VIPs in the bifurcation, if that's procedurally okay.
Can you give me the specifics? I'm sorry, Mr. Howard, give me the
No,
specifics.
so what Ms. Ware Jackson suggested, so I believe that there is concerns with professional service contracts within this package. So how they're packaged together matters. So going forward, I think we need to consider how we package things together. But for this particular situation, I've asked to bifurcate item I, which is proximity learning. Ms. Ware Jackson is action to bifurcate
I want to make sure that
the VIPs situation is included.
yeah, I would rather have it separate than risk losing it if the others go down. That's all.
So she wants to bifurcate G. So I don't know if we need to do two separate bifurcations or if we can include them all together.
So the motion would be to bifurcate the professional services contract into items I, items G, and then the remaining items.
Correct.
So you're gonna have 3 different items to consider.
Correct.
The board's in agreement, that'll be the way the motion reads.
Yes.
Thank you, Board Member Ware Jackson. Seeing no further comments, going to the audience.
I fully support those separations and would support voting yes to the proximity and the VIPs.
Thank you, board members, Howard and Ware Jackson. I'm not in objection of that. I actually think that it would be wise, because one of the things that I question about the item that Mr. Howard pulled away is the data. Will they have data? How much data will it provide? Will that data be accessible to our school system, and how quick? So that we can know if it's not working, how quick we'll be able to change. How long will it tie us into that contract? Are we tied to this contract for the entire school year? Or do we have the opportunity to be tied to it for a semester and see if it works, and then change to a different one if it's not? Also, does it have a breakdown in data as it relates to children with disabilities? I have to stay true to my heart that our children with disabilities do not get served. And oftentimes when we track data, we do not track data on them, which is why LSU in their report talked about how much money our state is losing in funding, in taxable funding from people with disabilities not being able to be employed. So I know that we have children with disabilities that are gonna be in virtual school, but I think that it is imperative and prudent of us to ensure that we're gonna have that data so that we can actually use it. Because we like to talk about statistics all the time, but we definitely need to have statistics when it really counts. And this is one of those times. So again, I thank you, Mr. Howard, and I thank you, Ms. Ware Jackson, for those friendly amendments or motions. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comment, back to the board.
Well, they have two.
Well, we have some some board comment. Board Member Lannis.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I'll be really brief. It's my understanding that we actually already utilize some of these services, such as Zern and Achieve 3000. However, we haven't received any data back on it. So my request would be probably not tonight, obviously, but at the next board meeting, is it possible to get data on how effective these programs have been thus far, how many schools or staff members are currently using it, and how long we've used it in our district? That would be very, very helpful. Thank you.
Board Member Bernard.
Mr. Howard, Ms. Ware Jackson, if you'll indulge me for just a minute, and I apologize, colleagues. F reads Board of Supervisors of Louisiana State University and Agricultural and Mechanical College on behalf of its Louisiana University Health Sciences Center, LASARD, in the amount of $50,000 to provide specialized supports for educators to meet the unique needs of students with disabilities. Funding source IDEA 611. I hate to do this to us, but I would request that we bifurcate that one as well, so that we are bifurcating F, G, and I. If Mr. Howard doesn't have any objection, it would just mean that we would go to the board and then back to the audience and back to the board.
So I think that what they've already done, Ms. Bernard, I'm sorry, Ms.
Go ahead.
I think Ms. Ware Jackson wanted hers to be considered separately. So there's a bifurcation of item G. Mine is item I. And I mean, can you just add F as a separate bifurcation?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we can.
I mean, you can add it to mine if that's possible.
Yeah, but I need to be certain. I'm not sure. We have a substitute motion on the floor.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can do further friendly amendments to a substitute motion.
We always can.
Okay.
And it hasn't been voted on, and that would be up to Mr. Howard, who is the maker, and me as the second.
Okay.
So if Mr. Howard is in agreement.
So item I, item G, and item,
It's F, G, and I. The last three. So, thanks, y'all. Is that okay, Mr. Howard? You okay with that?
I'm okay.
Okay, thank you.
And so I need to go another round with the friendly.
yeah. Yes, I would.
Okay, Dr. Narcisse, I do see you, but I'm gonna do the, okay. Seeing no board comment, back to the public. Seeing no public comment, back to the board. Seeing no board comment, Superintendent Narcisse, you have the floor.
Thank you, Vice President Collins. I just wanted to share with the board, I understand that the importance of us to evaluate programs, which I 100% agree, as we put into the contracts to ensure that we are being successful with what we invest in. I think that is a very important thing to do. But I would just like to caution us that if we micromanage every single thing that actually happens, and we do not provide consistency for performance across schools so they can be able to do their work, which is what we have put tremendously in trying to bring a consistent program, we will continue to have the dysfunction that we currently have right now. The challenge that we have had, that school leaders across this system have asked, is for us to be able to consistently measure progress in a way with support for the work in classrooms. And the notion that we believe a teacher can do it by themselves without professional development or programs to help accelerate performance is non-existent. What I do agree on is I understand the notion of autonomy and providing opportunity for schools to do things. But when you look at the programs that we have here, they have had impact. And I do agree with, I believe, board member, I can't remember if it was board member Lannis or Howard, who said, let's look at other districts that have, similar to our district, have had performance. All of these programs, Dreambox, Achieve 3000, have had progress on accelerating programs. One thing we are also working on tremendously is to stop all of these additional programs. When I came on, when we did our audit of the actual schools, this random approach to letting see what impacts or doesn't impact, where we don't have data as a school system measuring all of the programs that various schools have done on their own. And I think we have to have baseline approach to this work. And so I just wanted to share that I'm clear about the commitment for us to measure the effectiveness of program 100%. But what I am asking the board is that please allow us to start with a baseline approach to show the evaluation and progress of the program, and allow us to work with our teachers with a program over time. Because another challenge we've had is that we have made so many different type of changes when we don't see a result happen quickly, that we haven't allowed folks to become used to it, provide sufficient professional development, and those other components. Even a comment that was made, who said, I can't remember which public comment was, but they said, every time this district has done something, it has changed mid-course, it wouldn't allow implementation, those things. I would just say it is hard to hold me as your superintendent accountable if you are micromanaging every single move that I make in the sense of programming for schools in the system. We are at a place where we have to put programs that we think are proven effectiveness. These are programs that are by the state considered to be effective, and so our job, we are trying to ensure there is consistency across that. And so my ask of the board is allow me to show you the data, as you should hold me accountable to the programs we have, and also allow me to show effectiveness, because one question we had with programs that were accepted before I arrived, the multitude of programs that our team have looked at, there has been no data on whether they worked or not. And the board spent millions of dollars approving that from the last previous administrations. And so I accept that responsibility. That's why I'm excited also about our strategic plan, where we have clear data to show whether we're making progress or not. I'm excited about Board Member Howard, when he helped push, I think also with Vice President Collins, around a contract to ensure evaluation of programs. I think that's the best way to go down that. But we are 20 days from school. And I'm very concerned that by us bifurcating this and going through all these various ways on this particular item, if it does not pass, then our challenge will be is that it will slow us down in professional development. We have our Teacher Leadership Week coming up. There's a lot of other factors that will impact this. So I would just ask the board to hold me accountable as a superintendent if the effectiveness is not working, but do not micromanage in this particular way. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Might I just say, I agree. I'm sure all board members agree that academics and planning around academics is 100% under your wheelhouse. That's why nobody that I recall tonight said anything about that aspect. We have a legal fiduciary responsibility, and we have asked prior to this moment to show us how we can, with good conscience, considering our legal, like if anything goes wrong fiduciary, that's on us. That's not under your wheelhouse. The voters going to hold us accountable for our fiduciary responsibility in the same way that you will be held accountable for your academic responsibility. So it's not micromanagement for us to make sure we have the information that we need. And I was not going to make reference to previous programming for that very reason, but since some things were brought up, there's no data, or there's limited data on our previous programs, not because the district didn't do its job, it's because we recently just made a lot of changes in the spirit of improving the school system as before you got here. So there's no data in some situations because it hadn't been given enough time to show, which also could arguably mean that we don't know that it necessarily needs to be changed. That part is neither here nor there. In terms of our board vote. In terms of our board vote, though, we need to know that we're not putting ourselves on the hook without a plan or action to address potential shortfalls in the future, as well as the other concerns that my other colleagues addressed. And my last comment is that curriculum changes, differences in curriculum on different campuses were not necessarily random. It was a reflection of the desire of the district at the time to have some amount of equity. Certain campuses, it was a choice not to make a cookie cutter approach, okay? And I don't say that to say that your approach would be cookie cutter. I just want, since that was put out there, I don't want the public to think we just have been willy-nilly doing things. This school district has made incremental progress, and we could not have done that without there having been some meaningful thoughts to what has happened previously. Board Member Ware Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Maybe I'm misunderstanding something here, but I'll just say this. I support the whole package because this is what our superintendent is requesting, and I'm sure there's been a lot of research behind it. But when we started talking about possibly moving something out, or maybe there was some concerns about some things in here, I got a little nervous about VIPs. So, I really can't see anybody wanting to not support everybody reads and everybody counts. But I just want to make it clear that I support this package. I just didn't want to risk losing something that we know is working very well in the school system. So whichever way this goes, I just want to make sure we all understand my confusion. No, in so many words. Yeah, I do support the whole package, Superintendent. I just didn't want to risk losing VIPs by making that suggestion.
Thank you very much, Board Member Ware Jackson. Board Member Lannis.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I just want to quickly clarify my request because I heard a few buzzwords that went out, one of which was dysfunction. And when we talk about the baseline data over the course of the last few years, this predates you, Mr. Superintendent, so this has nothing to do with you. But I would argue that we do have data. When you look at our strategic plan under years 16 through 20, this is the baseline data. And so because we have this data, it makes us wonder, or I'll just use myself, it makes me wonder whether or not these programs are actually working, because this data shows that we've had some serious decreases and declines in our, not just accountability, but also our academics. So I'm not saying that we pull these programs, I'm not saying that we scratch them. What I am saying is that some of these programs are actually reoccurring services that we're receiving again, and it's asking for millions of dollars, which is why I made the request, can we please see whether or not these programs actually have been working over the course of the last few years? Not to say we have to scratch it this year, but when it comes up next year and we have that data in front of us, we may say, no, let's not go in this direction, let's choose to go in another direction. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Board Member Lannis. Seeing no other board requests to speak. Have we already gone to the public on this one? Okay, so back to the public. And back to the board. Seeing no other board requests to speak, Madam Secretary, please call the vote. Motion, yeah, please refresh us. Thank you.
This is a friendly amendment to substitute motion to bifurcate professional services contracts in item F, item G, item I, and the remaining items to be considered in globo.
And just additional clarity. This is only on the bifurcation, is not to say we accepting the rest?
That's correct.
All right, okay.
Please vote. Oh, sorry. Please vote. The motion carries. Another day question. It's not gonna pop up because, well, let me try it, hold on. Go ahead, Ms. Collins. The first bifurcation.
We could tell her which one it is.
And so the first item that was bifurcated is item F, Board of Supervisors of Louisiana State University and Agriculture. Well, I was just going in order. Okay. And Agriculture and Mechanical College on behalf of his Louisiana State University Health Sciences Center, Lassard, in the amount of $50,000 to provide specialized supports for educators to meet the unique needs of students with disabilities, funding source IDEA. First by Board Member Howard and second by Board Member Bernard. Seeing no board comment, any public comment? All right. Okay, thank you.
We strongly approve having a contract that use the IDEA funds that is going to benefit children with disabilities. When I say children with disabilities, using the IDEA funds, I'm talking about our children that are either twice exceptional, which Right now, our school system don't have that many that are considered twice exceptional. But our children with disabilities that actually have a real disability, not just the children that are in gifted, talented. So please, please, please provide more things that help our children with disabilities. And I'm quite sure that my child would love to say it. Tell him thank you. And that's how much it means to him. More resources, more programming that actually help them to have free, appropriate public education. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I move forward with any other public comment, I'm realizing I must not have understood when I asked for clarification. I thought the previous was a primarily procedural vote to allow us to separate those items and then go back and anything that was not. Okay. So we still need to go back to A through E? I mean, the other items. Okay. So after we finish this one, I'll go back to the,
No, you'll have to,
okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing that wisdom from your previous experience. All right, I just didn't want to mess myself up. Thank you so much. All right, seeing no other public comment, back to the board. Seeing no other board comment, Madam Secretary, please call the vote.
Please vote. The motion carries.
Moving forward with bifurcated item G, volunteers in public schools in the amount of $25,000 and $58,000 respectively for the Everybody Reads and Everyone Counts programs, funding sources, Title I and General Fund. Can I get a motion? Board Member Howard and Board Member Lannis. Seeing no board comment, any public comment? Seeing no public comment, back to the board. Seeing no board comment, Madam Secretary, please call the vote.
Please vote. The motion carries.
Moving forward now with bifurcated item proximity learning in the amount of $526,000 to provide virtual instruction for students in grades 6 through 12. Funding source ESSA 3 Action 1. All right, and so that is a first by Board Member Howard and a second by Board Member Bernard. I do want to make sure I'm understanding. Board Member Howard, well, it's probably not appropriate. Board Member Howard mentioned that this is how we're going to implement our virtual school in response to the COVID. I just want to make sure I'm understanding that that's what that is.
That's from my understanding, proximity. From my understanding, proximity learning is what we're going to use for students who enacted or said that they wanted to attend virtual school on a full-time basis when the fall semester opens up in the fall. From my understanding, we have a attendance or enrollment of over 600 students who have already indicated that they plan to utilize virtual instruction for the fall semester.
Okay.
From my understanding, that's how it works.
Okay.
Would you like additional information?
No, I just wanted to make sure of what that was.
Okay.
because it'll affect my vote, and so, thank you very much. And seeing no other board comment or questions. Back to the public. Seeing no public comment, back to the board. Madam Secretary, call the vote.
Please vote. The motion carries.
Okay, so now going back and considering the following items in global. Do I need to read all of, okay, all right, I was gonna say A, B, C, D. All right. Item A, Dreambox Learning Incorporated in the amount of $117,864. Item B, Achieve 3,000 in the amount of $1,391,090. Item C, Jason Learning in the amount of $75,000. Item D, Avid Center in the amount of $27,395,000. Item E, Zern in the amount of $110,000. And also, item H, Mirror Via LLC to provide literacy, mathematics, and content coaching support not to exceed $50,000. Excuse me. And can I get a second? Okay.
Who's the second?
Lannis.
Well, they both said it.
Seeing no board requests to speak? Any public comment? Seeing no public comment, back to the board. Seeing no board comment, Madam Secretary, please call the vote.
Please vote. Sorry. The motion carries.
Moving forward with item 16, consideration of a request to authorize the superintendent of schools to develop and issue a request for proposals for facility management services and to provide for related matters. Board Member Lannis, and a second by Board Member Baloo. Board Member Lannis?
Yes, thank you, Madam Vice President. I'll try to be as fast as possible because I understand that we're not actually voting on the RFP tonight. This is just the superintendent asking, can they begin the creation of the RFP? So this is more just a point of clarity. I know that in what was published, it was at 20% minority participation, even though as of right now, currently we're utilizing 42% minority participation. So my request is that minority participation amongst our local vendors and custodial service providers have a 50% target threshold. That's all I wanted to request. Thank you.
You want to put that as a friendly amendment to the motion, or you just want to put it out as a request?
I just wanted to put that out as a request because we're not actually voting on the RFP right now. I know that
Okay.
they have to bring that back before us, so we'll see it then. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other board comment. Any public comment? Seeing no public comment, back to the board. Seeing no other board comment, Madam Secretary, please call the vote.
Please vote. The motion carries.
Moving forward with item E. Hold up. Moving forward with item 19, the student rights and responsibility, no. Moving forward with,
Item J1.
I usually make tally marks, and I messed up my tally marks, that's why I'm. Thank you, okay. J1, Charter School Contract Amendment, Helix Community Schools. Consideration of a request to amend the charter school contract with Helix Network of Educational Choices to establish Helix Community Schools as the charter management company for Mentorship Academy. Can I get a motion? Board Member Lannis, seconded by Board Member Howard. Seeing no board comment, any public comment? Seeing no public comment? Back to the board. Seeing no board comment? Oh, okay, it was a miscommunication on the no public comment.
My apologies.
Yes, ma'am.
Currently, mentorship is a school that is under our school system, under our governing body. And I'm just trying to make sure for a point of clarity, are we saying that right now they don't have Helix as their charter entity? Or are we questioning it? Or are we saying that we have a charter school that has been operating and graduating students that we really have not been making sure that all their ducks are lined up in a row?
So public comment is only
Hold my
comment.
time. Stop my time.
Public comment is only comment and not questions. Would you like to frame that in a question? I mean, a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, give me back my 24 seconds,
Go
please,
ahead.
ma'am. Okay. I was only stating that as a question because I wanted the board to actually consider that. Because if we have been allowing this particular charter school to actually operate and they didn't have, and they wasn't under a real true contract or anything of that nature, then we put ourselves in a very much a big legal liability. And so I'm just asking that whenever we have anything that comes before us that relates to any of the schools' contracts, that we make sure that the public have like every single thing. Because right now, the way this is presenting, it is presenting to me as a person that has been reading it like they have not been under anything other than our school system, and actually has been one of our schools, which probably could have then been looked at as a traditional public school. So that's the reason that I posed those questions for everybody on the board to consider. And if the board felt the need to give a point of clarity, that they could, so that the public could actually understand it. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comment, back to the board. Board Member Gode.
Ma'am, just for the benefit of the public, all of the backup material is in board docs, which outlines the part of why this amendment is in there. And I can assure the public that the charter school has been under our guidance and program and protocols and things like that. So there has been nothing going on or anything like that. This is a routine type of business change, and I'd like for our general counsel, Mr. Shamlin, just to give a sentence or two saying what it is, but there's nothing to this except an internal decision by the charter school to how they operate.
Thank you, Mr. Gode. This is simply an amendment to a current contract that's been in place with Helix Network of Educational Choices, and that refers to mentorship, STEAM Academy, that's how we all know it. They've actually entered into a separate agreement adopting a new CMO, a new charter management organization, and that would be Helix Community Schools, who currently also runs 2 of their other schools. So this is simply a material amendment of the contract, and due to policy requires board approval. And so we're simply replacing the parties in the contract, changing the names of who we're contracting with. The other terms of the contract remain the same, no changes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Board Member Gode. Board Member Lannis.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Just for the sake of public confidence and transparency, I see that Mr. Webb is here from the Helix Aviation Academy. Is it appropriate to ask him to come forth for a second just so he can clarify, so everyone can hear from their mouths?
Board Member Lannis, at your request as a board member, he certainly can.
Yes, Mr. Webb.
Good evening, Board President, board members. Thank you for having us this evening. Questions?
Yes, sir. I just wanted you to just quickly clarify the differences in the previous contract and this new contract.
Right. So the difference between this contract and the contract we had before, we'll fall under a management organization. 2 of our schools are currently under the management organization. And so what it will do, it will just be more efficient for all 3 of the schools to be under the management organization. And it also helps with spending costs, so we can share a lot of things, whether it be transportation, whether it be overhead, all of those things can be shared under all of the management organization.
Thank you. That's my only questions. Thank you for all that you all do, the amazing work, and we're looking forward to the new school year when you all
Thank
open.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Lannis. Seeing no other board comment, please call the vote. Oh, back and forth, back and
Please
forth.
vote.
Thank you.
The motion carries.
Whew. It's 7:57. Organizational meetings to be announced by Board Member Gode.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Announcement of meetings. Committee of the Whole to be held on August 5th, 2021 at 5 p.m. at the Professional Development Center. The Back to School Bash will be held August 7th, 2021 from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Raisins Cane River Center. Some or all board members may attend. The regular meeting to be held on August 19th, 2021 at 5 p.m. at the Professional Development Center.
Thank you, and with that, we should, go ahead, Board Member Webb Jackson. You want to, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Y'all have a good night.